Hey, Scott Spears back for our bonus edition of The Exchange this week on WGH Talk. Of course, joined as always by Matt Morgan, 40th President of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, and so glad to have this week comedy writer, stand-up comic, political activist, worked with Ellen DeGeneres, Jay Leno, and Bill Maher, who we're going to get to this episode. We've been teasing it for a week now. Mike Larsen, so glad to have everybody here. Let's tear right into the gubernatorial race, because this is interesting. Ohio's next gubernatorial election is 21 months away, but the candidates are already reaching out to voters. Republican frontrunner Vivek Ramaswamy, who is endorsed by President Donald Trump, only took about 48 hours, has already begun airing advertising. Yeah. The lone Democrat in the race so far, former Ohio Health Department Director Dr. Amy Acton, is shattering the first quarter fundraising record for Democrats. Her team said that by the time the first quarter ended last Monday, she had $600,000 in her campaign coffers, beating the previous record for a Democrat. Former incumbent Governor Ted Strickland raised $472,000 in the first quarter in 2009. Acton's team said it was a grassroots effort with more than 10,000 donors from all 88 of Ohio's counties. Now, this is no super PAC money. So, here we are in very red Trumpian Ohio with no statewide Democratic politicians right now, and Amy Acton shatters the fundraising record. What do you make of that, Mary Ellen?
Well, I'm surprised, really, because I haven't seen her doing any speaking or anywhere trying to get her name known. She needs to work at it and work very hard. Absolutely nothing has happened yet.
But is what you just said maybe the idea that we talked about in the Wisconsin judicial race, which a more liberal judge won? Yeah. In Florida, the margins were cut in half for the two congressional seats that the Republicans won on Tuesday night. Well, here in Ohio, a Democrat you as a Democrat, somebody who was asked to run for governor several times, at least twice that we know of, not a strong candidate so far, and she's broken the fundraising record. So is it more the anti-Trump Republican feel?
Well, I think that's what it probably is, because I can't think of anything else,
Matt, you've not been a big fan of Amy Acton. Said she's not doing much. People don't know her, and people who do associate her with COVID, which is not a good thing in Ohio. Yet, people are throwing money at her. More than any other Democrat in the history of the gubernatorial runs.
I think that's good for her. I think it's good that she broke the record, but I don't think that unless she starts getting out there and actually doing something, it's going to matter.
Right. Maybe that's why she's not out there. Maybe, she's afraid people... She's at that James Carville school of let Vivek Ramaswamy wreck himself, let Trump wreck himself, and then I'll get in.
So you think her game plan is to just essentially let the Republicans do so bad that she wins by default?
I think I don't think she wins by... Well, that may be the way it has to go in Ohio now.
Nice.
Well, but I will say this. I'll say this. It's very interesting to me. The race is in 2026. Jim Tressel is not in. If there is going to be another Democrat, which I've asked Rich Cordray twice on the air, he has not said no. If he got in, if Sherrod Brown got in, we've all heard those rumors. Why spend her money now? Why spend it? Why go out there now? It doesn't make much sense for her to be out there now.
You don't have to spend money to go do stuff. You could go door knocking for all I care.
But do something. But what if she goes out there and has a gaffe?
Well, my guess is she's out. I heard her speak several times in November when she was going around all the state legislative races. And I worked on a few very close ones in the Dublin area that she came to a number of events. So I know she was out there. I think she's raising money because, one, she's the only game in town and Democrats want to voice their frustration. And, she is known, certainly in her circle, and she's in the healthcare business. There's some people who have some money, and, good for her. But, we live in Trump's America now. $600,000 doesn't do much against $20 million from Elon Musk. Vivek himself can write a check for, $100 million. He's got plenty of, so, I never like to question too much what a candidate's strategy is, because they all, running. It's like everyone kind of has their idea. maybe, I mean, in the good case scenario, she's spending her time now raising money. I personally think that if I were advising her, I think she needs a Cory Booker moment. She needs to do something that defines her as as something, a stunt, as you like
needs
to
a
say,
stunt.
as something that defines her as something other than the COVID lady. You know, which you know, whatever that is, I would like to see her define herself in a 2025 context as opposed to the 2021 Amy Acton that we knew during a time when no one wants to remember COVID.
Well, I would imagine if people start to feel that the gubernatorial race in Ohio is close, that you will see the super PAC money come in for the Democrats. So I don't think she has to worry about that if she is the nominee. But the other aspect of this, which I think is very interesting, that people are throwing this money at her enough to break the record, and they don't even know if she's going to be the only candidate. I mean, what if Sherrod Brown did get in? I mean, I guess you could give more money to somebody else. But I mean, it's interesting that people are, if it indeed is nothing to do with Amy Acton and it's all about her being the only Democrat in there, then that says something.
Yeah.
How was her speeches when you heard her?
I was not impressed. I think she's a very smart person. She's very soft-spoken.
Yeah.
And she's very reasonable. Mm-hmm. And she seems like she'd probably be wonderful in the job. Mm-hmm. But as we know, there is this epic survivor contest that before you get the job, and that's why I say I would love to see her do something where you say, "Whoa, I didn't see that coming."
Yeah.
Go Amy. You know, I think I gotta think that Tim Ryan is going to get into it, and I'm not personally a fan of Tim Ryan, but
aren't you?
I just thought he ran a horrible race against J.D. Vance.
Really?
You know, he ran those ads calling Nancy Pelosi a terror or an extremist.
Yeah,
and about how
good.
much he agrees with Donald Trump. And it was like, boy, that's really hard for me to get behind that guy, you know.
He was trying to win over the Republican
I think he is a
vote.
good guy. He has a great sense of humor. He's a good speaker and all those things. But that was really disheartening when our guy in a close race seemed to be abandoning us.
Yeah.
And Nancy Pelosi is an American hero. I'm so sick and tired of people taking potshots at Nancy Pelosi, the highest elected woman in American history, who has shown to have more guts than Schumer and all of the other Democratic leaders we have had over the last 20 years in either legislature. And I just think it's a cheap shot when someone thinks they can just take a shot at her when clearly she is head and shoulders above all those other politicians.
Well, you know what?
It's
interesting you bring that up about Amy Acton, that you feel she needs to do something, whatever it is, stunt. What would you call it?
I mean, I don't get it.
I don't want to keep using the stunt word if you don't like that. What would you call it?
I mean,
get your name out there moment.
Yeah.
Marketing.
Well, no. I mean, to me, it's just politics, and that is part of politics is orchestrating ceremonies. You know, you do that in a campaign. You know, I could just sign this, but let's go sign it in front of the courthouse and call the press and get people to sign. You know, that's just part of campaigning. Sure, I don't mind. You know, stunt in the campaign, but I think she needs. Back to what you were saying about Schlossberg, we need figurative bomb throwers. You know, we need someone to shake things up, and especially her because she is so soft-spoken and very, very smart. But I think I need to see her as someone I want to follow into battle.
Well, and here we are, because, I mean, we were talking with Mary Ellen a couple weeks ago, and Mary Ellen at one point, 2 points, I think, in your career, was approached about running for governor of Ohio. Mm-hmm. And you did things throughout your career that we've talked about. You challenged Buck Reinhardt to a demolition derby, which, when you were running for state treasurer. And you also used to give out recipe cards, which people knocked.
Well, those aren't the important things. The important things were my programs.
Right.
When I was state treasurer, I had good programs. Mm-hmm. And, it's things that are still in existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Link Deposit and Star Ohio and, Yeah.
But you also knew how to play the game
Right.
and get eyeballs on you. By sometimes you gotta,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you said, what was the thing people said about the recipe cards?
Well, Buck Reinhardt said, "Why are you passing out recipe cards?" I said, "Because everybody saves them,
Yeah,
They save
see,
recipes.
that's good politics. That's
and people still have them. They bring
Yes.
them into Primrose. People die, and they find my recipes in their stuff, and they bring them into
I
Primrose."
tell with Canada, the congresswoman I worked for, Jackie Shear, was all about giving someone something. Give them, rather than give a button to a person, give a toy to their kid with your name on it. You know, that kid, a little yo-yo, they'll be finding that thing in their house for the next
Yeah.
4 years, and they're going to be reminded. You know, it's just good retail politics.
Well, but you know, it is interesting, and of course you remember the programs, and I think that's what makes somebody good in the job, and that's what you're remembered for. But like Amy Acton, I mean, she has sort of talked about what she wants to do, but it's not getting any attention for her. She wants to do education. She doesn't want to be like the Republican Party. She wants to, she's laid out things, but it's not getting her any attention. As you said, she needs to do something that gets her out there.
I would love to see that. I don't know, but I don't know what that is. I wish I could say this is what she needs to. I don't know, but maybe something will come up, something that upsets her enough where she goes to, and she goes out on a limb. She goes and interferes with an ICE raid. I don't know, something.
See, there you go.
Something
Get
to
attention.
say. I'm putting my marker down that this is wrong. You know, and takes whatever heat comes with it. I don't know.
Well, Matt, right now there's I heard, I hate to use the term conspiracy theory on the Republican side here, but that Mike DeWine is about ready to ride off into the sunset. He can't run anymore, and he's run for just about every office in the state at one point or another. And he knows that he is no longer the popular politician who people covet the endorsement of in this state, that it's Trump. And he doesn't like that. And I was given this theory the other day, I've heard this from a few people, that he took Husted, who was his lieutenant governor, he got to make the appointment to J.D. Vance's seat. He knows Husted is a bad candidate. Most people who look at Husted feel he's a horrible candidate. Would have been a horrible candidate for governor. And DeWine knew that Ramaswamy was running, and he knew Husted would have just got run over. So send him up to the Senate race so I can get Jim Tressel in here, and this is my guy who I can say I can lend my endorsement to. Now, also, by the way, the same time we're having the gubernatorial race, you've got that Senate race, because it's going to be a special Senate race, and that's where I keep hearing Sherrod Brown's name.
That's what I think.
That
If he
he's-
runs, he'll run for that
against
state.
Husted. And that could, I mean, even Jim Renacci, who was on the show the other day, who ran against Sherrod Brown a few years ago, and did fairly well, ran for governor against Mike DeWine, did fairly well. He said he would not rule out running against Husted because he feels he's a horrible candidate.
Yeah.
So there you are.
And Trump's not on the ballot. That's the big difference.
Yes.
With Trump, were Trump not on the ballot, would Sherrod have beat Moreno? Probably.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he would have.
Yeah. So, yeah, I could. I hope he does run. Quite frankly, that Sherrod Brown has done so much that I want him to do whatever makes him happy. Honestly,
so-
if he doesn't want to serve again, good for you. Go play with your grandkids. You earned it. you know?
So for the Democrats, Matt, who feel that they want Sherrod Brown to run for something, they got to have a Senate candidate, and a strong one, and certainly Sherrod Brown, I think, would like to go back to the Senate. So here he goes. Let's say he runs against Husted, and you don't like Amy Acton. Well, then who's your person?
On the Democratic side?
Yeah, to run for governor, to at least primary her, somebody to primary her.
I don't know that there are any prominent Democrats in. I mean,
Right.
I mean, the last one was Ted Strickland, and
Cordray. I think he
Cordray.
wants to do it. I just think he's seeing what's going on.
There are some good people in Congress. Oh God, I hate when I start a sentence and I have a name, and then the guy who was Landsman in the Cincinnati area, who was elected 2 years ago. I think there are people who we don't know them until we know them, right? I mean, you don't say that you don't like Amy Acton. You're saying I don't know anything about her, right? Who knows? We got a year and a half to learn something. I think there's people who could rise up. No one knew who the heck Vivek Ramaswamy was. Certainly no, and not many people could pronounce his name. And look at him now. People know who he is. So.
Dennis Kucinich is doing something. I'm not sure what it is. Dennis can't stop running for office.
Yeah.
Dennis would run for dog catcher if it came down to that. He runs for everything.
Yeah.
And I he got in late last time to that gubernatorial race, but he did fairly well for getting in as late as he did.
Oh.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
He lost all respect when he ran as a spoiler in that congressional race up there, and the Democrats could have won that race. And it was a young guy like him. He was a kid when he got elected. He should have had the respect for that young Democrat and helped him rather than ran against him. And I'm a Dennis Kucinich fan, but that was sad for me. Someone's own ego took over for what he knew was important.
But I think his ego might not allow him to stop.
No, it probably won't.
I think that's right.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And honestly, if it ended up being Dennis Kucinich and Amy Acton, I think he might have a shot at the nomination. I really do. I think that's a whole different thing now. Because Dennis Kucinich knows how to be provocative. And he
definitely.
And he also spends a lot of time on Fox News. And that's a different audience. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he'd win, but...
I don't know. I mean, I think that when you run for a lot of offices, at some point, the people who voted for you lose confidence in your ability to win office.
And they don't win, yeah.
And yes,
Right.
so they're going to pick somebody else who they think can win.
Yeah.
Well, then Amy Acton's got to be your person in Ohio, to be honest, because Cordray has run and not won. Kucinich has won for a lot of things and not won. And if you go for one of these people, not that you can't, it's very, very, very hard in a gubernatorial race against a Vivek Ramaswamy or a Jim Tressel.
Well, you're limiting it to the people that we know now in March 2020, April 2025. There is time. I think there is time for someone to one thing, Democratic politics, when we do win elections, is determined by women and people of color in this state. That's how we win the cities, because black women are the greatest organizers God created, and they go turn out the vote. So I think we have to start with a candidate that appeals to the people who are doing the work where our votes are in the city. Sometimes I think people who come and they spend so much time reassuring the white farmers in rural Ohio that they lose our base of voters that are there in the city. So I think there are people who could make themselves known in the next 6 to 8 months. But
Mary Ellen, though, on this note, I think it's interesting. I think the Democrats tried to do that 4 years ago in the gubernatorial race because it was doable. Mike DeWine was very unpopular after COVID. He was the first sitting governor in more than, I think, 100 years to ever be primaried by his own party. He didn't get 50% of the vote in his own primary, and the Democrats did. The fresh mayor of Dayton, Nan Whaley, and she got less votes than anybody else on the Democratic ticket, period, against a weak governor, Mike DeWine. So I don't know if you can run as a mayor. I don't know if you can come out, or maybe it's just Nan Whaley's problem. I don't know. What do you make of it, Mary Ellen?
Well, she evidently didn't have what it took to win. And we've talked about this. We think the woman factor is an issue, but if you get a strong woman, and that's what I don't know about Amy, whether she's a real strong woman. You've got to be real strong, because people have to look at you and realize that you can handle everything. And
Joyce Beatty's tough.
what?
Joyce Beatty's tough. People like
Well,
her.
Joyce Beatty
Joyce Beatty's
tough.
wonderful.
Yeah, she's very tough.
I would support her if she ran for governor. She's way too smart to give up that congressional seat. I don't think it would be good career advice to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and she's a fighter. She does not.
She is a fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, she does not.
Marcy Kaptur, but she's got the congressional seat as well.
What about our outgoing Supreme Court Justice, right, Melody Stewart?
Yes,
Right? Did she lose her seat in this last one?
No, I don't think
No, no,
she
she's
did.
still in. I'm trying to remember which ones were.
Yeah,
Or is she still in the Supreme Court? But
Yeah.
I
you
think
know,
Geraldo lives up in Cleveland.
or
Geraldo Rivera. I think he lives up in Cleveland.
Geraldo Rivera.
He was going to run for office at one point, and a lot of people wanted Jerry Springer to run at one point. They thought that would have been a good
my.
idea.
Jerry Springer was and that he was the mayor of Cincinnati. He at least was a political
Oh, I
person to
see.
begin
I
with.
didn't know that.
Yes,
Okay.
a very
I bet Geraldo
popular
could be
mayor.
governor.
Once a,
Huh?
I bet Geraldo could be
oh
governor.
God, no, Geraldo Rivera.
I'm just saying, I think if he ran, people would know who he was.
people our age, maybe. I mean, do you know who Geraldo Rivera is?
Oh, yeah, that's the man who interviewed Charles Manson.
Yeah, see?
Right.
It's built in.
Yes.
He's right. And I think that's what I thought the Amy Acton factor was. When I first heard last year at the Democratic convention that she was going to run for this, I thought, everybody knows Amy Acton. She doesn't have to come in and do this whole bit about who am I and what am I, and people know her. She was big during COVID.
Yeah.
But then I was told, oh Lord, no, not Amy Acton. We don't want any part of her. So I don't know.
Who told you that?
A lot of people said, well, people don't really know her, and
Oh,
that
But
whole bit.
certainly, you got. I mean, you know,
I thought
doesn't-
she had a national platform.
I don't, but it's COVID, and it's through no fault of hers. She did wonderful work. The fact that she could prod DeWine into doing what he did was wonderful. I have great respect for her. But it's 2025 now, and I think she needs, if she's going to run, she needs to have a modern platform that is not about, hey, COVID. You know.
Well, I hate to bring this up, and maybe we'll spend the rest of this segment before we get to the Bill Maher segment on this. Somebody brought this up to me the other day as well. Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay, that's the Republican. That's the Trumper. Now, in Ohio, to be governor, you've got to win in the rural areas by about 70% if you are the Republican. Mm-hmm. And the Democrat's going to win those metropolitan areas, the Columbus area, the Cincinnati area now, the Toledo area, the Cleveland area. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, it's much like the woman problem. Can a guy named Vivek Ramaswamy, who is not, and by the way, we've only had white men be governors in Ohio, can he carry those rural areas like Trump did? Because if he carries them with 60%, he's going to lose.
I think he can. I mean, like if Trump remains as popular as he is now, I think by far. Vivek Ramaswamy in 2016 when he ran against Donald Trump, or sorry, in 2020 when he ran against Donald Trump. I mean, his Republican primary was essentially the same exact thing as.
But
Donald Trump.
He did horrible though.
Well, he did. I mean, he did.
They just elected a Colombian immigrant senator. If you're a Republican, it's not held against you. I think if it were the Democratic candidate, oh my God, we would hear all the racist crap coming out. But because
I'm not saying race. Well,
because he's a Republican and a very, very wealthy one, that kind of overrules that. But
well, also, I mean,
no, so it is the Bill Clinton line then. It's the Democrats can never elect a woman president. The Republicans have to because the Democrats are more into a woman. The Republicans are just... Now see, but Bill Clinton said opposite, now that I'm playing this back in my head. Bill Clinton said it would have to be the Republicans because the Republicans will only vote for a Republican woman. They simply will not vote for somebody who's a woman. Okay,
Yeah.
and the same... So, that's just the opposite of what you're saying. So, I don't know.
no, I'm.
Oh, you're saying that. Maybe.
No, I'm just saying that yeah, there
I
will
don't
be
know what I'm saying.
a certain number of people who will say, I'm not voting for someone who has a foreign name. Yeah, sure, you work that into it, but I don't think it is as big a deal when you're a Republican endorsed by Donald Trump as it would be if you were a Democrat. Then they would be. Because Democrats, and sometimes people say that, Democrats aren't good at messaging because we don't make racist attacks on people. We're not going to do that. We're not calling, the Colombian, Bernardo Moreno, who suddenly became Bernie Moreno somehow. We were like, yeah, whatever. He gets the transition into an Italian man named Bernie Moreno. But on the Democratic side, the other side would be with the amount of vitriol they would unleash on anyone. I think would make it very difficult for them.
But Mary Ellen, I don't know if it's necessary that the other. It's necessarily that the other party is attacking the person. I don't know that the Democrats would necessarily attack Vivek Ramaswamy, race issues or anything like that. But I think and I'm not going to name any of the counties, but a lot of these 88 counties in Ohio, Ramaswamy is not a name that they would vote for, and that's where the Republicans win in Ohio. And if he can win those counties by 60%, but he's not getting elected that way. So if he just loses that slight 10% just because of race or a name or whatever within his own constituency, he will not be governor.
It would be in the primary, though, not in the general. That if a Jim Tressel ran and they had a version of Ohio State football coach or this man with the funny name, that you could see maybe that comes to play.
Well, I'll tell you what, because he is the front runner now. I mean, we got to say he's the front runner. He's got the money. He's announced he's running. He's got the nomination.
Have you ever seen ads come out this far ahead of a race? It's crazy.
And back to back. They're just all the time.
Right. For those old people who watch Jeopardy, that's all we see.
But it may not be for the best. I mean, people may be sick and tired of him by the time it gets to the election.
So I guess the big question here, and we'll go just to clear all this up, round robin here. Mary Ellen, does being a woman, does not being a white man matter? Because that's all we've had as governors of Ohio.
Well, I think we're not sure about that.
I think
it's hard for a woman to get elected. I know that, but I'd like to take a test vote and see where we are, because you may be very surprised at where people are on this. Just because he's had a lot of ads on TV doesn't give him a plus. It may give him a minus,
if you were holding speeches in the same county, a rural county in Ohio, on the same night, Jim Tressel, Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm guessing more Republicans are going to the Jim Tressel speech. And that's just, some of that's based in his Ohio State background, but some of that, unfortunately, I'd like to think that we're over race and things, but how many candidates have we even had for governor who have been not white?
Yeah, well,
right.
But that is, there's always none until there's a first, right? So I think and I think Nan Whaley would have been a great governor, and she is a very cool person. I really like Nan a lot. Has a great sense of humor, and she's very smart and very, but it is what it is. It's the D as opposed to the R next to your name in the state. But I think there are some really great women in the state legislature right now.
Yes, Ursula. What's her name?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't remember.
She's my favorite.
Anita Samani, who's in the state Senate from Dublin. Crystal Lett, who just got elected to the state house. They're young, very vocal, tough, outspoken women. So and I'm sure there's a dozen others that I don't know that maybe someone steps up, but.
Well, it's one of those moments. I guess we'll see what happens. But, on election night last time around, there was, the idea that if Kamala Harris was elected, this is a woman, and we all should celebrate at least that, because it's groundbreaking. If it happens, it didn't. I think the same feeling was there for Obama. In 2008, John McCain conceded very graciously, immediately, at 11 o'clock. It was an early election, and the crowd that Obama had in Chicago was enormous. Sure. And race wasn't talked a lot about in that election by John McCain, but, when it happens, then it matters. And if Vivek Ramaswamy won this race, and that's a long way off, it would be historic. And if Amy Acton won this race, it would be historic.
History either way.
History either way. So will that be brought up in the time before with 1 minute?
I think what will be interesting to see is within the Indian community, which is big in Ohio, especially in certain areas down where I am near Dublin. There's but a lot of them are Democrats, and so it'll be interesting to see where if they are swayed to vote someone of their background, or not.
Well-
But yeah, I don't know.
You mean Native Americans?
No, I mean South Asian
from
Indians.
Indian, yeah.
And I don't know if he's in it. He might be from Fiji. Where is he? I don't
I'm
know
not
what
sure
his
where he's
background is. I don't know if
Born
he's
in
from-
Ohio. Hey, we got a hard break coming up. We're coming back
Okay.
with the Bill Maher story. Don't go anywhere. Hey, Scott Spears with Matt Morgan, 40th President of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, and Mike Larsen, who has written for some great people like Ellen DeGeneres, Jay Leno, and Bill Maher. And as many of you know, Bill Maher was just at the White House, and he's going to tell us all about it this coming Friday night on his real-time show at the invitation of Kid Rock. Kid Rock was kind of the peacemaker between Trump and Bill Maher. Matt, what do you make of this whole situation?
It seems like Bill Maher's trying out for a job here.
Mary Ellen, what do you think of Bill Maher going to the White House?
I was very surprised.
In a good way or bad way?
Well, I think probably in a bad way.
Mike, you have worked with Bill Maher. Do he and Trump have similarities in any way?
Yeah, they have similarities generationally. They probably require about the same length of time for hair and makeup. And if Bill's hanging out with Kid Rock, I would say his friends circle has gone down since I worked for him.
And here we are in the home stretch of this week's episode of The Exchange, our bonus edition. Now go to YouTube, search Mike Larsen, Mary Ellen Withrow, Scott Spears, Matt Morgan, and you will catch both of these episodes, and we hope you enjoy them. This has been a lot of fun and is flying right by here tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed yourself.
Oh, always.
Having a lot of fun.
Yes.
Now, let's get to the Bill Maher story, the much ballyhooed Bill Maher story. Here we go. Following his dinner with President Donald Trump, Bill Maher is teasing that he's got a lot to say about the experience. The Real Time with Bill Maher host, a longtime critic of the businessman turned two-term president, took to X Tuesday afternoon to report back on the meeting. This is what he said. "Hey, everybody. Thank you for all the interest in my dinner with the president last night. I promise all will be revealed on the next Real Time on April 11th, Maher wrote. He added, "As it's April 1st today, no one would believe what I had to say today anyway." Country rock singer and staunch Trump supporter Kid Rock was responsible for setting up the dinner between the two. Now, this is where we are, and that's why Geraldo's going to be the
Wow.
next governor. This is showbiz now.
Bill's quality of friend have gone down since I worked
Oh,
for him.
yes.
I'm kind of disgusted too.
Now,
Yes.
Now, this is it. Prior to the meeting, Trump expressed doubts about how the encounter would go in a Sunday night Truth Social post, saying Kid Rock suggested they confer, and I don't really like the idea much, and don't like it how much, but don't like it much now, but thought it would be interesting. Well, that'll make you feel welcome when you're coming to the White House when you release that the night before.
Yeah.
But there you go. So Bill Maher, being the true broadcaster, tune in Friday night to Real Time, and I'm going to tell you all about it. But a lot of Democrats coming down on Bill Maher. Why are you going to the White House? Why are you doing that? You've criticized the man. He sued you. What's this all about? Kid Rock? Blah, blah, blah. Mike, you've worked for the man on this show, Real Time. What do you make of this?
Bill Maher's not a Democrat. Bill Maher's he's a broadcaster. Okay? He is a broadcaster. And this shows it. You talk about a stunt. He does a stunt to get eyes on his program because that's what he does. That's who he is. And I'm not telling tales out of school. I think that's how he sees himself too.
So Bill Maher, when he lays that line on now, which he does all the time because he's doing things like this, he'll always say, on his show, I am not for that man. I am not for Trump, and I'm never going to be. I'm an old school Democrat.
No, he is an old school capitalist. He makes a lot of money, and God
Okay.
bless him. I got nothing against that. I'm good for you. When I work, I try to get as much as I can for my work too. I don't hold anything against that. But he is a broadcaster. He's been on the airs now for 20. You count his show before this, 30 years? That is unheard of. That's what drives Bill Maher. When I worked for him for that year and a half, Obama was in office, and he wasn't a huge fan of Obama either. He supported him over Romney at that time, but the media world was very much for Obama, so he kind of rode that wave, but. No, nothing that Bill does surprises me, but I have never felt that like Bill and I were simpatico or that we're on the same wavelength politically. I've said before, I don't think Bill really has a strong political point of view. Someone like Mary Ellen and I, people who've been involved in politics, we're driven by whatever that is. That thing that drives us, that is very much about whether it's social justice or whatever it is. I think the thing that drives Bill Maher is being on the air and staying on the air, and he's good at it.
Now, just to mention this, Kid Rock was on Fox and Friends Tuesday morning and said it could not have been better. Everyone was so surprised. He continued, the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence and we saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom. And I was like, you never been here, Bill? We talked about things we had in common. Wokeness, securing the border. The president was asking him what he thought about policy going on with Iran and Israel and things. Okay.
Boy, the hair
it blew my mind. I was very proud, Rock said.
Say, the hair and makeup for those two must have taken hours.
Which two in that trio?
Bill, well, I don't know with Kid Rock. I've never seen him without his goofy hat. But Bill and Trump.
Bill needs some more time.
When you said the things that they had in common, they could have been like how long it takes us to do our hair and makeup.
So, Bill, if you could describe him as a person, not politically, just as a human being, Bill Maher is...
funny. And a good broadcaster.
Off-air, Bill Maher is...
surly.
Is he?
That's a good word. Surly.
No,
Little
no
surly.
disrespect in that. I think he would appreciate that word too.
Now, you don't know what he did, but a lot of people, I would say that Bill Maher's audience is probably more liberal than conservative. So what do you think? We don't know what...
I would say Bill Maher's audience is old.
What I meant to say with Bill Maher's audience is old more than young. It's an older off for HBO. He's got the older folks.
And it might be liberal and conservative and libertarian, a very strong libertarian kind of bent, but definitely older.
Not necessarily what he's going to talk about Friday, but do you think he's going to come back with, I didn't like the guy, or is he going to come back with... I think he's in trouble here, to be honest with you, because I think he's going to offend a very strong portion of his audience with however he answers this question. Because if he comes back and is wishy-washy, Trump was okay, I thought he was okay, that's going to tick a lot of his very old liberal people off. And if he comes back and he is, I can't stand Trump, this new viewer, as you said, this capitalist broadcaster is trying to bring in, he's going to tick those people off. So what's he going to do on Friday night?
I will tell you that my friends who are still writers on that show right now are writing, and not because they told me, just because I know how they... Right now they are writing material about what a hero Bill Maher is and what a brave, brave man he is to go into the belly of the beast and sit down with the man he has criticized so much. That's going to be the whole tenor of that thing, that how Bill is a champion of free speech and believes that, more important than the politics is that we talk to one another, because he's good at that. That's what Bill does best, is gives pablum to the masses. And it doesn't. The HBO audience is fairly small, actually, in the media universe, and so it allows him to really focus on his audience.
But he's given us a big reveal here. He's like, "Come on, Friday night. Here
Sure.
I'm gonna." I mean, if he comes out though and just does that, people are gonna go, "Well, what was the big reveal? Why couldn't you tell us this on Wednesday?" We got that.
Because he's not on the air on Wednesday, right?
So it's
He
kind of
doesn't
going to
do a show.
It's going to be a...
I don't know. I don't watch.
Kind of a nothing.
I don't watch the Bill Maher show. I didn't watch it before I went on the show. My wife watched it a lot. She really liked it. I don't... I watch now when I hear like something... Or actually I have friends.
You're going to watch
who
this
are on
Friday
the show.
night?
No, I don't. I have shows Friday night. I'm working. But I don't anyway. I don't really watch. But my guess, Bill is a broadcaster. I don't think the headline will be that he will criticize the president, but his whole thing is going to be that we have to talk to each other. I think that's going to be his message.
Mary Ellen, what do you think of this meeting brought together by Kid Rock, Bill Maher, and Donald Trump?
Well, leave out Kid Rock. I got nothing to say about him.
How many Kid Rock albums do you own?
I don't know anything about Kid Rock. But for Bill Maher to go visit the president, there had to be a reason that he was something he was after to find out, don't you think?
No, I think
don't
it was.
think-
I think it's it's a massive marketing ploy to.
He just did it to make everybody wonder what he was doing.
Well, I mean,
Well,
he is
I think-
advertising a show there.
Right, and HBO, owned by Viacom, is a major corporation, and there was all sorts. I'm sure there was a lot of people when Kid Rock. I just love that Bill hangs out with Kid Rock. That just says so much. It's awesome. So when this came up, I'm sure the corporate people at HBO were like, "Oh, heck yes! Are you kidding? We get to do a White House interview with this, battle of the century. These two guys who both similar personalities, except that I haven't seen Bill in 10 years, but Bill has his faculties. I'll say that.
Yeah,
That's one
right.
way he is different than Donald Trump. But as far as the showmanship and I think they're
Yeah.
very similar in that way. I think.
Yeah.
Why did Trump do this? Just because Kid Rock asked him? You can get an invite to the White House if Kid Rock is your mediator and goes to
Yeah.
When
Trump?
you get advice from an intellect the level of Kid Rock, you take it.
What? Who is Kid Rock?
Exactly.
He's a performer,
Exactly.
music guy. And
I have no idea
He
who
is
you're talking about.
a rock performer who's always been kind of on the periphery of that world. He has a very kind of redneck following.
Oh, does he?
So he does very
that
well.
fits the music.
He does very well. He's had a good.
He and Bill Maher.
Huh?
He and Bill Maher,
But-
friendly, I guess.
Really?
I get. Did we find out where Vivek Ramaswamy was from?
He lives in
He
Columbus.
lives in Columbus.
I
Yeah, he
looked it
lives
up.
close to Beck. Yeah.
I think we were going to say that.
I don't remember the name of the place, but I mean his parents are from India.
Okay, well, India.
Yeah.
I guess you,
His
okay.
parents are from India.
But-
Is that okay?
So there's that. Well, what's more to say? I guess we'll tune in on Friday night.
Now,
And
how old is Kid Rock? What's his age?
He's
50s,
Yeah,
50s, 60s, maybe.
Probably.
Somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
Bill is probably in
70s,
his
I
early
think.
70s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I always said that even though Bill was maybe 5 or 6 years older than me, he always felt like a generation older than me. Because he very much identifies with Johnny Carson, kind
Yeah.
of that generation, and I think that's kind of... So I think in many ways he is much more a peer of Donald Trump. In many ways, that generation, the showmanship, the ego, whatever you want to call that, I think they were two peas in a very weird pod.
Well, so he has known him for a long time, right?
Has Maher known Trump?
Yeah.
I don't know. They've both been in
wonder.
media a long time. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I bet they've crossed paths, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I bet Friday's show will get a big rating.
And honestly, when I worked for Maher, now they're interchangeable in my head now. When I worked for Bill, it was before Donald Trump. It was the Mitt Romney years. We were talking
Yeah.
about 999. That guy, Kane. That was that group of
Oh,
politicians.
yeah, right.
That was a different group of politicians we were telling jokes about.
Speaking of jokes, here's a nice transition. When comic Amber Ruffin was announced as the featured entertainer at this year's White House Correspondents Association dinner, the group's president said she'd be roasting the most powerful people on all sides of the aisle and the journalists who cover them. But after Ruffin referred to the Trump administration as kind of a bunch of murderers on a podcast last week and made clear her focus would largely be on the president, she was out. Over the weekend, WHCA President Eugene Daniels said his group wanted to refocus the ritzy annual event on journalistic excellence and wouldn't have a comedian, Daniels, host of the upcoming MSNBC weekend show, made no mention of Ruffin's comments in a statement and didn't return a request for comment on Monday. The president, Donald Trump, isn't expected to attend the dinner scheduled for April 26th. So, well... Okay.
If you do not know Amber Ruffin, you can thank me later. Look up Amber Ruffin. She's one of the funniest people
Is
in
she?
America right
Oh.
now. She was for years. She was a writer for Seth Meyers. Now she has a show on CNN on Saturday nights with Roy Wood Jr. and I forget the name of it, but she's very, very funny. This idea, and they're journalists. They come on, they know better than that. Everyone knows who Amber Ruffin is. They knew who Amber was before they booked her. Amber is a very outspoken person. Black woman. She's gay. She's very outspoken. She's very political. For them to suddenly discover that, it's just more of this pandering, like what these law firms are doing, where they're just rolling over for Trump and just pandering.
That's what they're doing.
It's so sad.
Yes.
It's just sad. And when a journalist organization does that, that's just pathetic. That's just sad.
Yep.
Is the quote bad though? Kind of a bunch of murderers.
Well,
Which is
the way
what
you
she said.
say it, you're not Amber Ruffin. I bet when Amber said it, it was hilarious.
It was funny. It was funny. It was a
No
funny
offense,
line.
Amber is the top of her class.
Exactly. No, I'm just saying. In context, which I guess is how we're all reading this. That's the quote that they're pulling out.
But it's out of context. And but so what? They are kind of a bunch of murderers, right? I mean, is she really speaking out of school for that? And she's a comedian and she's outrageous. She's supposed to be outrageous. So,
Well, do you remember the year though? Who was it? Oh gosh, who was doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and the president is usually on the dais before Trump, and it was Bill Clinton, and they were going heavy on Monica Lewinsky material, and you could just see how uptight Bill Clinton was, and I think that comedian was reprimanded, or at least let him know when it was over, hey, we didn't like that. That was not okay to joke about. You can joke about some things, but that wasn't okay.
well.
Because they said Hillary was sitting right there.
Yeah,
and
well,
that was
tough. Politics is a rough business, and so is comedy. I will give that both Clintons, both Bill and Hillary, sat there with a stony smile and they endured it. Not like this wuss now who's not even going to show up because someone might hurt his tender feelings.
Yeah.
I just go back to Obama's last Correspondents' Dinner when Trump was in the audience, and Obama just destroyed him, and you could just see his fragile ego just crumbling. And it comes back to what I said earlier about not having be able to take yourself so darn seriously, and
Yeah, I don't think he ever forgave him for that.
No. But
Mary Ellen, did you ever attend the dinner when you were in Washington?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, did
Wait,
you?
is it fun?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Were you there the night that the comedian went after Bill Clinton for the Monica stuff?
No. I was there 2 times with the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and
Seems like a fun event.
it is.
Do you remember who the entertainment was?
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
no,
It wasn't anybody
right that stood out.
that was impressive to me.
Also, it wasn't televised. It's fairly recently that it's been televised.
Yeah.
So now it has to be more of an entertainment. And they'll do their event without a comedian and without a television audience. So that's the choice they make.
Really.
No one's going to tune in to hear the op-ed director of USA Today or whoever they have speaking,
Well, but what this makes me think of, though, is much like the Kathy Griffin incident. She was trying to be funny, and Kathy Griffin's very well known, but when she did the head and the Trump and the blood thing, it kind of took her right out of the game. And I remember a lot of comedians at that time, I mean, obviously Trump wasn't happy with it, but a lot of comedians saying the problem is it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny enough. I don't know. Maybe that's this murderer comment she did. And again, maybe it was a joke. I don't know. And I'm out of context here. But that's what the news stories are. I think this came out of USA Today. That
people are so darn delicate. Everyone's a snowflake now. You can't take a joke. Amber Ruffin's a comedian. She's going to be outrageous. Otherwise, she wouldn't be a comedian.
I think she's probably just taken the advice of Mike. I mean, Mike said on I think it was on the show. It might have been off the show, but he said that you don't write jokes, you write surprises.
Yes.
And I think that,
Well, maybe
Absolutely.
she surprised people a little too early.
Well,
she should
I
have
mean-
saved that for the
No.
stage that
See, I mean,
night.
you know,
she could have got it
I
off.
don't
They're
think
using
you're-
this as an excuse. Trump put pressure on them. Some of the newspapers said we're going to be kicked out of the White House press pool if
They
we
saw
do
what happened to
this,
the
whatever
AP
it
and said,
was.
"Ooh."
And they're just all running away. But, you
But
know.
doesn't it help her to get kicked off? I mean, now
Sure.
she's in the news, and here we go. We wouldn't be talking
You
about her
know
if she was
Amber
just doing
Ruffin
anything.
now?
I know who Amber Ruffin is,
Yeah,
and I know what she
absolutely.
says, and I know what job she had.
She's fantastic. She is so funny and such a breath of fresh air, and is a very talented person. She sings and does all these kind of silly characters. Very original voice.
But didn't they know who they were hiring?
Of course they did.
So why
she's
take
been
the
on
time
television for 10 years. They knew exactly who they had.
So this is hire the woman, and then Trump gets angry. He leans on you, and
Hire
then
the black
you've got to
woman.
fire.
We know what Donald Trump's history is with black women, right? He calls them names. They're all these things.
No.
They have a beautiful, young, gay black woman who is sticking it to the president, and Mr. Fragile Ego said, you've got to cancel her or you're not going to get to play in the White House, and they did. I don't think it has anything to do with Amber.
You think maybe Bill Maher will host it now?
There you go. They could get Bill. That's a
Their
good
buddy,
idea.
Kid Rock, can do the musical
I think
entertainment.
that's great.
It'll be a whole show.
Maybe that's what he's after.
Maybe that's the
Yes.
announcement on Friday. I'm
You know-
going to do the.
You know who
play the
else
news
is very
segment.
funny? Mike Huckabee. Maybe they can put him up there.
Oh, yeah,
Very
he's a
funny.
barrel of laughs. Mike Huckabee, he's great. J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance, the comedy stylings of J.D. Vance.
He doesn't even realize that he's up there telling jokes. But who know? It wouldn't surprise me if that comes out of Bill Maher's mouth. Who knows? You never know anymore. Maybe that's his big announcement. Maybe that's what they talked about.
Right.
That Ruffin woman, she was terrible. But hire me, I'll be great.
God, in the days of Trump, nothing is out of the question, right?
No,
So
it could
who
happen.
knows,
It
yeah.
could. I don't know who his favorite comedian is.
I think it's probably the guy from Kill Tony who did all the racist stuff about Puerto Rico at his rally, right?
Oh, that's right. He did have him
Yeah,
at the New
maybe
York rally.
they should have Kill Tony people. They should have those guys come up and do their racist jokes about Puerto Rico, and it was Don Jr. who booked him for that. That's their favorite guy.
But isn't
Or
the
Joe
audience?
Rogan. Have Joe Rogan do it.
But isn't the audience for this like Whoopi Goldberg and Anna Navarro and Sonny Hostin and Diane Sawyer? Isn't that the group?
well,
Katie
journalists.
Couric? Well, they're not good.
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of an old group of journalists you chose, but yeah. I don't know.
Nora O'Donnell?
Right.
Yeah, Nora O'Donnell. You don't want
What do
Nora
they call it? They called it Nerd Prom, right? The correspondence
Nerd
dinner.
Prom. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
In D.C. they would call it Nerd Prom because it was like, it's like when the journalists and the press people on the Hill get to put on a tux and go to a fancy dinner.
Well, you know what? It's the big story of the week, but we'll talk about this in a second. President Donald Trump on Sunday didn't roll out the outrunning for a third term, even though it's prohibited by the United States Constitution, adding he was not joking. A lot of people want me to do it, Trump said in an interview with NBC News, but I mean basically tell them we have a long way to go. It's very early in the administration. Trump said he's focused on the current term, but asked whether he wants a third term, he said, I like working. I'm not joking, he said when asked to clarify, but I'm not. It is far too early to think about. Well, a lot of people say this is just diversion to get away from Signalgate, to get away from tariffs and all that going on. But then he said he'd run against Obama and he'd beat him, and here we are. Do you think Trump really wants a third term, Mary Ellen?
Well, he probably does, but I don't want him to have a third term.
I do believe, we're taping this again on Wednesday, that they did ask Speaker of the House Johnson about this today, and I think his tepid answer was we would have to change the rules for him to do that, and basically, paraphrase, it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen.
I say change the Constitution, and our guy will be Obama. Let's go. I will take an Obama against Trump election. Oh my God!
So you think
that
he's
would be
serious?
wonder. Of course he is.
I don't-
Really?
He's
I
king.
don't- I
Are you
don't
kidding?
think-
He's he is the most important man, not only on Earth currently, but ever on Earth. Donald Trump is, yeah, of course he wants to serve forever.
Yeah, but NBC, who asked him, and he was awful wordy in the NBC interview.
But he is very. He's
Yeah, but I mean, what was he going to say? I mean, you know he's going to say yes. He's not. What's he going to say? No.
But
No.
there's a guy in Congress who already introduced legislation to change the Constitution. So yeah.
But I think even John Husted was asked about this, and he said, I think he was just kidding.
That's what they always say. They always say
Every
that,
time somebody...
even though they know he's never kidding. He doesn't kid. He has no sense of humor. I don't think he knows how to kid. He says what he has to say.
Well, he said, I'm not joking. That's in the quote.
There you go.
I don't think I've ever seen the man laugh.
No, I have not.
Now that you say that, I
maybe
genuinely
like
don't
if a
think I've ever seen
child
him
fell
laugh.
downstairs, that might make him laugh. I think the only joy I've ever seen him have is when he made fun of the disabled reporter, and he mocked him. I mean, that seemed to be the highest point of joy for that guy. But man, could you imagine if he did run and we got Obama to run again?
Well, I don't think Obama would run again. I don't
Obama's
think
probably
Michelle
good.
would let it.
No, I think they're enjoying their life.
They've had enough of it.
But
That would open up the door for Clinton to run again.
Oh,
I don't
Clinton
think-
loved being president.
Yeah, we don't need that.
I don't think he'd do anything.
No,
Yeah.
we don't need that.
Well, let's get a few of these other quotes from
Okay.
this NBC interview in. Since the tariffs went in, this is Liberation Day. We're taping this, I guess, is what he called it.
I forgot that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Liberation
Yeah,
Day.
Tariff Day.
Somehow I don't feel more free.
Well, President Donald Trump said he couldn't care less if his signature tariffs raised the price of foreign vehicles for Americans in that NBC interview. Well, Mary Ellen, what about the days when politicians wouldn't say something? Does it bother you that this might hurt Americans? I couldn't care less.
Well, usually you don't hear the president talking like that.
Yeah.
They try to make things sound good. He's, he was saying how he was going to take the prices down on everything, and look what he's doing. Yeah. He doesn't care now. See?
Do you think these tariffs in the long run are going to hurt him?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They've already hurt him some.
I don't think it's a smart thing to do, evidently, and he insists on it.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean the tariffs are just ridiculous. It's all because we have an idiot in president who is also mentally ill. I mean that wonderful combination. And he only cares about himself. I will say this about Donald Trump. He is a genuine person. I think he is honest in the sense that he tells us who he really is. And I think that is the truest thing he has said. He really doesn't care. He doesn't care about not just us. Of course he doesn't care about us, but he doesn't care about his MAGA base. Those, for the most part, poor, maybe, many of them are poorly educated and are and he doesn't care less. There's more white people on welfare than there are people of any other race, and he doesn't. And those people, a lot of them voted for Trump, and he doesn't care about those people.
That's right.
So I think he is absolutely right. He doesn't care.
Matt, what do you think? Couldn't care less, and do his people care that he says this?
Oh, his people don't care about anything. I think he had it dead on when he said he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and he'd still win the election.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think his people really care about anything he says.
Maybe.
Because who are his people now? I mean, maybe that first term he had some professional Republicans who were running things for them. They might have cared. But now he has nothing but sycophants, working for him. You can't even get in the door with Trump until you've kissed the ring. And, so I don't know that. And that's sad. I think in every administration you need people who say, hey, that's not right, or maybe we should talk this over before you say that. He doesn't have any of that.
No, not anymore.
We'll get one more in here. The president also told NBC News he doesn't plan to fire anyone involved in Signalgate. The group chat with top intelligence officials in which they discuss military attack plans in front of a journalist, Mr. Goldberg, with The Atlantic. Well, they're all staying in their positions. What do you make of that, Matt?
I think that they're still the most incompetent group of people that you could have put in the job, but it's not like you're doing. They're already in there. I don't know.
Right.
They're staying. Mary Ellen, what do you think about this? Nobody's getting fired for this.
If you look at all the people that he's hired, it's the worst possible people that he could have ever chosen. Every one of them. I tell you, that one that's head of the FBI just scares the living daylights out of me.
Kash Patel.
Kash Patel with his eyes. I swear I swear he's not right.
The
Yeah.
fact that Donald Trump meets these people and says, "Oh, these are the kind of people I need on my team," just
Yeah.
shows you that he's such a poor judge of character. But
Well, maybe Bill Maher's angling for one of these positions.
There you go.
He just, went and met and did his thing. Problem that nobody's being fired from this, Mike? This whole signal gate?
yeah, do I have a problem with all of them even being in the position that these people have access to classified information? This group of, I mean, they're idiots, but they're idiots that don't love America. I mean, they love wrapping themselves in the flag, but they don't care about our alliances around the world or our relationships with Canada, for
Oh,
God's
yes,
sakes. I mean,
and
Canada.
Our sweet neighbors.
They don't even care. None of them care about us.
Yeah.
So no, why should he fire them? Who's he going to hire in their stead?
We don't know. We don't know. You know what? We've come to the end of this program, but we have had a lot. Mary Ellen, it's so good to see you as always. Thank you so much for coming in. Hope you've
welcome.
enjoyed yourself.
I have.
Matt, it's always good to see you.
Oh yes, it's been great.
Mike, it's great to see you again. I hope
Great
you've
to
enjoyed
see you,
it. This
and
has been
thank
fun.
you for inviting me to be on with Mary Ellen. It's
No.
always
Yes.
good to see Mary Ellen.
Anytime. It's always a lot of
Yeah.
fun. And again, go on YouTube, search Mike Larsen, search Mary Ellen Withrow, Matt Morgan, Scott Spears, Exchange, WGH Talk, and it will come up all those different ways, and you can watch both episodes and be entertained as we talk about all the stuff going on in the world. For Mary Ellen, Mike, and Matt, this is Scott, heading for the dugout.